I had no idea my own mother saw me as just an ATM. I spent my whole life working hard, taking care of my family's finances, believing that one day my sacrifices would be recognized. But then my mother looked me in the eye and said, "You're just an ATM. Everything is going to your sister." Broken heart. I was stunned. After all these years, was I nothing more than a paycheck to them? How could my own mother betray me like this? Now, I'm left with one question. Should I accept this, or finally stand up for myself? As I stepped out of the office that evening, a sharp gust of cold wind hit my face. It was the kind of bitter chill that cut through layers of clothing, the kind that made you feel small and insignificant. I pulled my coat tighter around me and exhaled, watching my breath disappear into the night air. My feet moved on autopilot, following the same path home I had taken for years, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. The phone call had come just an hour earlier. My mother's voice was as firm as ever, with that familiar tone that left no room for argument. "Your sister deserves the inheritance. You have a good job. You don't need it." I could still hear the way she said it, as if she had just made the most logical decision in the world, as if I were nothing more than a machine, an ATM that dispensed money whenever she or my sister needed it. The truth is, I had been financially supporting my family for years. I paid off debts, covered emergencies, and even sent my sister through college. And I never once asked for anything in return. I did it out of love, out of duty. But now, I realized it was never enough. I was never enough. I reached the crosswalk and hesitated, staring at the glowing red hand that told me to wait. In that moment, I felt just as stuck in my life as I was on that sidewalk. Was this what I had worked so hard for? To be cast aside the moment I was no longer useful? A pharmacy stood across the street, its bright neon sign flickering against the darkness. I reached into my pocket, my fingers brushing against a crumpled prescription I hadn't filled yet. My doctor had suggested something for stress, for the sleepless nights, for the tightness in my chest that never seemed to go away. But how could a few pills fix the feeling of being abandoned by my own family? The light turned green, but I didn't move. Instead, I stood there, staring at the empty sidewalk ahead. A thought crept into my mind. What if I just stopped? What if I walked away from all of it? For the first time, I wondered what life might look like if I chose myself for once. As I left the office, a cold wind swept through the streets, biting at my skin through my coat. The sun had already set, leaving the city wrapped in a quiet, uneasy darkness. My hands trembled as I clutched my phone, replaying the conversation with my mother over and over in my head. She didn't even hesitate. "Your sister deserves the inheritance. You have a good job. You don't need it." I had worked tirelessly for years, taking care of my family, making sure my mother and sister never had to struggle. I paid the bills when money was tight. I covered unexpected medical expenses. I even helped put my sister through college. And yet, none of it mattered. To my mother, I wasn't a daughter. I was a source of income, a never-ending stream of financial support. A part of me wanted to believe that she didn't mean it that way, that maybe she just didn't realize how much those words had hurt me. But deep down, I knew better. This wasn't the first time she had put my sister first. Growing up, I had always been the responsible one, the one who was expected to work hard, while my sister was allowed to make mistakes, to be taken care of. But I never thought it would come to this. I walked in a daze, barely noticing the people passing by. My feet carried me forward, but my mind was stuck in the past, remembering every sacrifice I had made for a family that never truly saw me. What was the point of all of it? My fingers curled around a crumpled piece of paper in my pocket, my prescription. My doctor had warned me that stress like this wasn't sustainable, that I needed to take care of myself. But how could I? How could I focus on my own well-being when I had spent my entire life taking care of others? I reached a crosswalk and stopped, staring at the blinking red light. The pharmacy was just across the street, its bright sign flickering in the cold night air. I could go in, fill the prescription, pretend that a few pills could fix the weight pressing down on my chest. Or I could turn around and walk away. For the first time, I asked myself, What if I stopped being the responsible one? What if I chose myself for once? The wind howled through the streets as I made my way home, my body moving forward while my mind replayed the past. Every step felt heavier than the last, like I was carrying years of exhaustion on my shoulders. I had spent so long taking care of them. Who was taking care of me? I had been the responsible one my whole life. When my father left, I was the one who picked up the pieces. I took on extra shifts to help my mom cover the rent. I gave up nights out and vacations to make sure my sister had everything she needed. I never asked for anything in return. But now, standing in the freezing night air, I wondered, had I made a mistake? Had I spent my entire life giving to people who never truly valued me? You have a good job. You don't need it. That sentence echoed in my head, over and over, as if my hard work meant I didn't deserve anything, as if success should be punished instead of rewarded. My sister, on the other hand, had never worked a full-time job in her life. She was the one who got bailed out when she made bad choices, the one who got help without ever having to ask. And now, she was getting everything. Not just the money, but the validation, the love, the approval. I clenched my fists inside my coat pockets, my nails digging into my palms. What had I done to deserve this? Was I wrong for wanting even the smallest bit of fairness? I barely noticed where I was walking until I found myself standing in front of a small cafe, its windows glowing with warm yellow light. Inside, people were sitting together, laughing, sipping their drinks without a care in the world. Did they know what it felt like to be abandoned by the very people you sacrificed everything for? A part of me wanted to push open the door, sit down, and let the warmth wash over me. To pretend, just for a little while, that I wasn't completely alone. But instead, I stood frozen on the sidewalk, my breath visible in the cold air. For years, I had believed that if I worked hard enough, if I gave enough, my family would finally see me, that my mother would finally acknowledge everything I had done. But now, I knew the truth. I was never meant to be seen. I was only meant to provide. And now, for the first time in my life, I had to decide, was I going to keep playing that role? Or was it time to walk away? I stood outside the cafe, watching the people inside, their faces warm and full of life. A couple sat near the window, their hands intertwined, lost in quiet conversation. A group of friends laughed over steaming cups of coffee. For a brief moment, I wished I could trade places with any of them, just to know what it felt like to belong, to be seen, to be loved without conditions. But I wasn't like them. I had spent my whole life taking care of people who never saw me as anything more than a provider, a safety net, a backup plan. And now, when it was finally time for my mother to show that she valued me, she had made it clear. I was nothing more than an ATM to her. The anger inside me simmered, but beneath it was something deeper, something heavier, grief. I wasn't just mourning the inheritance. I was mourning the idea of a mother who had never really existed. I had spent years believing that if I worked hard enough, gave enough, sacrificed enough, she would finally see me. But she never would. I turned away from the cafe and kept walking. My apartment was only a few blocks away, but it felt like miles. My body was exhausted, but my mind wouldn't stop racing. Was this really my life? Working endlessly, giving everything, and getting nothing in return? Then, a thought hit me. What if I just stopped? What if I stopped paying for everything? What if I stopped answering my mother's calls when she needed money? What if, for once in my life, I put myself first? The idea scared me. I had never put myself first before. I had always been the one who fixed things, the one who carried the weight of responsibility, the one who made sure everyone else was okay. But who was making sure I was okay? I reached my apartment and hesitated at the door. Inside was the life I had built, the job I had worked hard for, the small space that was truly mine. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And for the first time, I realized I didn't have to keep living like this. Maybe I didn't need their validation. Maybe I didn't need to keep proving myself to people who would never see my worth. Maybe it was time to choose myself. And as I stepped inside, locking the door behind me, I knew one thing for sure. I was done being their ATM. I locked the door behind me and leaned against it, my breath coming out in short, uneven bursts. My apartment was quiet, too quiet. No ringing phone. No urgent messages asking for money. Just silence. For the first time in years, I wasn't rushing to fix something for someone else. And yet, instead of feeling relief, I felt a strange emptiness settle in my chest. If I wasn't their provider, their safety net, their ATM, then who was I? I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and sat at the small table in the corner. My phone sat in front of me. The screen still lit up from my last message with my mother. I stared at it, waiting, maybe for an apology, maybe for some sign that she had realized how much she had hurt me. But nothing came. The truth was, it never would. I had spent years bending over backward for my family, believing that love was something I had to earn, that if I worked hard enough, gave enough, sacrificed enough, they would finally see me. But love isn't something you should have to buy. And if my mother truly valued me, she never would have put a price tag on my worth. I took a deep breath and opened my banking app. My heart pounded as I scrolled through years of transactions, rent payments, grocery money, tuition fees, emergency loans, thousands and thousands of dollars, all given without hesitation, all because I thought it would bring me closer to them. But it hadn't. I tapped on my mother's contact and hovered over the message field. 100 different things ran through my mind. Anger, hurt, desperation. But in the end, I typed only one sentence. I'm done. I hit send before I could change my mind. The moment the message disappeared, a strange sense of calm washed over me. I didn't know what would happen next. Maybe my mother would be furious. Maybe my sister would call, demanding an explanation. Maybe they would never speak to me again. But for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I owed them anything. I wasn't their ATM. I wasn't their backup plan. I wasn't their safety net. I was me. And that was enough. I sat at the table, staring at my phone screen. The message I had just sent, I'm done, felt final, like the last page of a book I had been reading my entire life. And yet, a small voice inside me whispered, what if they never speak to you again? What if you regret this? For so long, my identity had been tied to my role in the family. The provider, the problem solver, the one who made sure everything was okay. Without that role, who was I? Would I be okay? The answer came slower than I expected. Yes, I would. I had spent years giving, sacrificing, waiting for something in return. But I wasn't going to wait anymore. It was time to build a life that wasn't centered around earning my family's approval. The weight on my chest didn't lift all at once, but as I sat there, something inside me shifted. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was free. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, my phone buzzed, a message from my mother. For a brief moment, my heart clenched. Maybe she had realized how much she had hurt me. Maybe this was the apology I had been waiting for. I opened the message. You're being dramatic. Call me when you're ready to act like family again. I exhaled slowly, letting the words sink in. There it was, the proof that I had made the right decision. She didn't see me as a daughter. She saw me as an asset, and I wasn't willing to play that role anymore. I didn't respond. Instead, I put my phone down and stepped outside. The morning air was crisp, fresh. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was standing at the beginning of something new. A life where I chose myself. Maybe my mother would never understand. Maybe my sister would never see my side of things. But that was okay. I wasn't living for them anymore. I took a deep breath, let the past go, and walked forward, this time, for myself. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another thrilling story. See you in the next one.